Hello, I'm Valentina Kozlova, former principal dancer of the Bolshoi Ballet and New York City Ballet, also co-founder of VKIBC competition and founder of Valentina Kozlova Dance Foundation. In the program Pulse on Dance and Science of Movement. Let's get started.
I know that your training was at the Bolshoi School, and that after you defected, of course, you studied here and you prepared for roles here and around the world during your guest appearances. And I wondered, how did you prepare for the roles without a coach, which I know is very, very important in Russia, but we don't emphasize that position of a coach. So I wondered how you managed without your regular coach.
I guess today on Pulse and Dance, I am not asking questions, I'm answering questions. So that's yes, that was a very big process. The good thing was that I had such experienced coaches, not teachers, in Bolshoi, and especially my last coach, Raisa Struchkova, where she absolutely rethought with me together on the roles I already danced, the classics. So I was, as young as I was experienced enough to know what suits me, what doesn't, and how to work on. In the West, and especially in the United States, or in general in the West, classics were difficult and not to maintain, because I had, again, enough sort of knowledge and experience to dance. What I did, I filmed my rehearsals, and it was not looking for a technique, because technique is just the steps, it's the language. You have to go far above and beyond that. And I started to go with different interpretations, because you cannot be stuck the way you done like 2 years ago and you continue to dance. So it's always something that you bring into interpretation. Maybe a different musical cue on a turn of your head or the shoulder. That's what makes the difference. And sometimes I liked, and sometimes I didn't, but it was important for me to see it. Regarding all other new works for which I really wanted to come here to learn, I had coaches, like when I had to do lead role on Broadway and On Your Toes, and later on for New York City Ballet, Slaughter on 10th Avenue, I had Luigi. I had no idea what jazz is. I never danced jazz. And it was so incredible, because I thought, okay, it's balancing choreography, and I'm not knowledgeable in jazz. And Luigi said very simple, like, we have Epperman, and he said it's Epperman, but in a jazzy way, and it hit me just right there, and that was it. The rest, if I knew how to approach every single step, there's always Epperman. And that's, going forward, upsetting for me nowadays to see dancers when they rehearse, for example. They're constantly looking at themselves in the mirror, which is, it's a huge factor. And I think it's a role of a coach when they prepare you for a role, basically to say, you don't look at yourself, you have to be part of this role. So when I had different choreographers, including big ballets by Krenk, Roland Petit, they always send somebody to coach me, and or new choreography. Elliot Feld worked with me a lot. Marcus Sappington worked with me a lot, and every time it was new discovery, always difficult, always something that like, but I wanted, and I guess, you know, the desire to do something new, keeping my personality in the way I see it, but yet hearing what people say. Regarding the classics, there were a lot of movements with Russian dancers even passing by, and I never was afraid to invite them, say, please come and see my rehearsal, because fresh eye is always very important, especially people I trust. And they would come on rehearsal. Even people like, I remember from Bolshoi, they were on tour from Corps de Ballet, but they were my friends. I said, can you come and see me? I'm done. I'm rehearsing, for example, Smonak. And they come, and it was important for me what they think. So you kind of take into consideration. That's how I worked. It was not easy, but you become more an adult in a way, with big base that I had, and it's I think it's more like, how can you push yourself? What else can you get out of yourself that it comes across to the audience?
Mm-hmm. I know the style of New York City Ballet, where you were principal for 13 years, is very different than your training. How did you adapt to that, and who helped you there?
In the beginning, John Terrace, and it was interesting because my first Balanchine ballet was Symphony and C, and John Terrace, who was Balanchine good friend, very close friend, and knew of course his ballet from beginning to end. So he was teaching me, so I was receiving that. And then Peter Martins came because he just became ahead of Balanchine passed away, and then so he came to see. And then was an argument between John Terrace and Peter Martins, who is right, who is wrong. And I stayed like in the middle, and I said, I don't really care. Can you make up your mind? Because I do whatever you want me to do. It was like, it just like, it was very strange. But John was great, and he was gentleman, and knowing that he comes also from Vaganova school, but he lived here. And so it's a sort of combination of Western society, for example, and dancing, and working with George Balanchine, which is completely different. It was very helpful because he'd seen beyond just the steps. I'm sure 100% that Balanchine, he had his own muses, and one of his muses, Suzanne Farrell, helped me a lot. She did several ballets with me, and Scotch and Allegro and Tchaikovsky Pas and Concerto Barocco and Napola, etc. And interesting thing that she was telling me and showing me the way it should be, apparently, right? And I would do, and she will look and say, well, how would you do like your own way? And I will say, well, that's more kind of natural for me. She said, well, don't do it. And it reminded me how coaches worked with us. And the only thing that, so it was somewhere respecting on Suzanne's part, was respecting where I come from, my knowledge, and probably working with and under Balanchine, because she was his muse. He was creating on her. When you create, you say, try this step, I don't think it works, try this step. So by being like pupil in that sense, that you understand how choreographers create on you or change on you. And the same thing with when you pass on, because it didn't come from me what I'm doing in my own coaching, that all of a sudden I'm that genius. It comes from, it's tradition. It comes from my coaches, and my coaches came from the other coaches, and and so on. It's a passing tradition. And Violette Verdi did a great role also, because Violette comes from Paris opera, and classics and French technique, and a lot of substance Violette had. So she kind of helped me to move from classical when I do Balanchine ballets. The difficulties that I had in the very beginning, my legs constantly felt it was too heavy, and I danced many jumping rolls, and like you take a don't cue it, so mostly jumping roll, and at least act one. And all of a sudden in Balanchine ballets that I just will get heaviness in my legs, and that was probably in the physical sense like the most difficult. I didn't know why I got so many cramps at the time, and I realized, because that's a very interesting situation, that Balanchine ballets, you go, for example, Susu, right? You're going down on one, down, and then you take a jump. While in classical traditional, you go in and you go up. And by placing down, that's what, if you do correct and put your heels down, that it becomes, or at least for me, it became like too much, too heavy. Eventually, I got over, and my legs were trained. But also, prior that I joined New York City Ballet, when I had to talk with Balanchine, I mentioned this to him. And he said that it was, first of all, he was experimenting with his choreography and his classes. It was like choreographing in classes. And the second is that to put everybody together, it was easy to do accent down. You're going down, so then everybody moves together while going up. So that's, but then also, then I dance pieces completely romantic, where there's some sort of without story relationship between couple or couples, like Liebeslieder or David Spundler, and it was genius what he choreographed. And then I felt like I am in my own environment, because just turning of your head and feeling that something is going to happen, it just, even if you sit and watch other dancing, you don't sit like this. You sit in the presence of the atmosphere that Balanchine created. So they were like beautiful, beautiful things, and it helped me a lot.
And I know that you coach now. And how do you find Americans who aren't really used to having a coach? I hope that they appreciate it, even though it's not part of our tradition.
Yeah, that is true. And I guess when I danced, I didn't realize how less coaching is here. I mean, people work with choreographers, and that's coaching, because a choreographer gets from you what needs to be done. But when like classics pass by, I honestly don't know how it's traveled from one generation to another. And now I feel that it's everybody can do everything, and everybody have all abilities and more or less beautiful bodies, technique, and all of that. It's very hard for me to be interested, unfortunately, to see somebody on stage that will have huge impression on me. And I think it's a lack of coaching, because it's you work necessarily with individual. And when I coach, I say, this is the structure, but there's many different variations. For example, I did this way, but you also can do this way or that way. And I try on a dancer that I work with. And if it doesn't work, it's really, I have to think about what will work for this person, that she will, for example, female will come very strong, and even male dancers when I coach. And it takes me to explain what role is about before I'll show the steps. Last week I was showing Giselle Variation Act 1, and I was showing the steps, and I said one thing before I will start to show you, please do not go on Pancher Arabesque. I said, if you do once, I'll walk out of the studio. So they knew not to do it. And but I say this always like as a joke, so nobody gets upset, and they really like to hear what I say.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were doing, and it still doesn't look right to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I said that, character of Giselle, and I explained the situation and character and where it takes place, this variation on stage. It's not just a variation to dance on a concert. It's a variation, it's a role you have to create. And I said, there's one word I can tell you. You're like a wind. It's like almost little strike of fresh wind. That's how you present first variation. So you breathe and you move, and you're happy, and you're innocent, and you're naive. Nothing can be a step arabesque Pancher. It should be just going like little wind. And few days ago I said, okay, let's do first entrance of Giselle Act 2. I said, don't land on the floor. You have to hang in the air. So dancers looking at me like, how is that possible? And technically I explained how it is possible. And you know what they started to do? So I think that for a coach, whoever teaches them, they should, of course, technique is very important, but coaches themselves, they have to explain.
Yes.
Because everything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Explain where it comes from, what the story is, and how to approach technically that you basically don't land on the ground.
Mm-hmm. I have read that first little solo that starts the second act is supposed to look like Giselle is in a different form now.
Mm-hmm.
She's not in human form anymore, and she's sort of being blown around in the wind. She doesn't know her weight, and I have rarely seen it done that way. It's usually done like a little bravura dance because it's short, but it's difficult.
The entrance,
Yes,
it's true.
And it's done like a little power dance instead of a, what is my weight now? Where am I flying? Am I on the ground or in the air?
Yeah.
But again, it comes back to coaching. I don't know that anybody is told that, even if they could do it the right way.
The thing is that, as I said, that you can learn Vaganova method, for example, right? Russians or people who study Vaganova method, in reality, you have to spend 8 years, and you have to be in class. In second, for example, you can finish your school as corps de ballet or somewhere in the corps de ballet, and then you want to study to become a teacher, then you have to have 4 years of that course. So in the last several years, that Vaganova method open online. I don't know how long it takes, month, 2 months or whatsoever. It's just a brief explanation what goes on, what should be on. When you're going to coach somebody, this is very different, because you can give good class, that is true. When you coach somebody for a role, coach should be the one who does this role, because we all know what we see it. You sit in the audience, but did you actually experience yourself that? Because there's as I mentioned before, there's a different situations, like this episode when I danced with Charles Jute in Milan, and a huge rake, and I had to do promenade myself. So I had to readjust my body right, left, forward, not to fall into the orchestra. So would coach tell you that?
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Coaching, unfortunately, is not something that people talk about,
No.
but they have to be knowledgeable
Mm-hmm.
to coach. Unless you're choreographer, that's a different story. If you're choreographer, that you get out of the dancers anything you want.
Mm-hmm. Do you see a difference in teaching the Vaganova method in other parts of the world? Have you noticed classes that are supposed to be in the Vaganova method that are taught outside of Russia? Have you found them to be accurate, or are they sort of second-rate Vaganova?
South Korea.
They
Chaos.
teach accurate Vaganova.
They teach very accurate because Russians started there, like
Uh-huh.
from Mariinsky and Bolshoi. And then also South Korean dancers or people who retired, they went to either Bolshoi or St. Petersburg also
Mhm.
to study. So there was a very important connection to get as much as possible correct.
Mhm.
So that probably will be second after Russia, without doubt, school.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed, I mean, they have incredible dancers, and those dancers dance all over the world and become principals because of the schooling.
Yes.
Yet, I go to South Korea like often, and at some point I said I need more artistry, I need more soul. So they started to do. So my next thing started to be, yes, arms are beautiful, but tip of your fingers, they're dead. Because it's everything, absolutely everything. Even when you look, if you look this way, or you look this way, or you look that way, it's already a different interpretation of the role. Luckily enough for them, they have this discipline, at least in ballet, that they listen, there's no other way around. You have to do what you're told. And so it's a pleasure to work with South Korean dancers. They take Vaganova method as such, as like majestic stuff.
Yeah. I remember hearing a director of a school in South Korea that turns out really strong dancers and artists. And she said, let other schools teach dancers so they can be in the corps de ballet. She said, I teach them so that they can be principal dancers.
And they are.
And yes, and they
They're
are.
like absolutely everywhere principal dancers.
They're musical.
Yeah.
They perform well for an audience. They understand what their roles are and who they are on stage, from what I've seen.
I mean, Audrey, I am trying to do as much as I can when I coach, not just give difficult my classes are very difficult because you have to have them. That will be easy to dance eventually. You don't have to start from the beginning to do difficult stuff which comes in the variations or pas de deux. You're ready, basically you're ready. So those classes gives you, it's like medicine, you have to have. But when I go into variations, I just don't say like turn out. Besides that, I'm constantly saying it's not fifth. No, there's still a little bit left. It's not fifth. It's just like very precise. And musicality. It has to be musicalities because people trying to do as much as they can. Many turns, and that's when I said, I don't mind you do triple here, triple there, quadruple something. Just start on the music and finish with the music. that you cannot disregard and you want to show your technique, it means nothing really on stage. I love to coach, and I helped a lot also to get principal positions because I have an open dialogue with the dancer. It's not just, okay, here you are, we do the steps. I have to know a person, I have to convince, that's what you have to believe in yourself. It's a lot of psychology goes into it. And for me, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ready to help people, and they get a lot out of it if they put themselves to really desire to be somebody else.
But your training, though, has, and your own intellect and your own devotion to dance has prepared you to do that, to know who is Giselle and how does she feel, and in the first act and then in the second act, and Odette O'Deal and all of the...
I remember when I did rehearsal before I danced my first Giselle, you know, it starts with Alice Gone. I had the big extensions, even for that time, I had big extensions. And so, of course, I'm lifting my legs, standing like that on écarté. And Marina Semyonova, famous Marina Semyonova, she said, "Oh, my darling, what are you doing? You're not in circus, lower your leg." Because this thing is that you're not human being, you know, your vision, right?
Yes.
So you lift your leg on écarté and you turn to go on arabesque. So if anything, it should stay on the same level or go higher. And just in general, that in Giselle, you don't want to have like here. It's not about your legs.
Yes.
It's about the image being weightless in general. But I will never forget this. She said, "What do you think you're doing? You're in circus."
But you know now, high extensions are the thing, and audiences seem to expect that and like that. I knew somebody who said, "You know, your leg is high enough in second position if you hit yourself in the cheek with your leg." But I think that I think for Giselle and for Sylphie, doing a 6 o'clock penché or a split is vulgar. I think years ago it was regarded as vulgar and circusy.
Yeah.
I mean, only maybe in Gaieté Parisienne in the Can could somebody do a split, but certainly not in one of the classics.